Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Sports. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, today is August 17th, 2020, and I am back with another voiceover offering. This is going to be based on an article that I was made aware of by the master teacher BGS Ib Moore, who came on my channel a couple of weeks ago to talk about how sports could be safely resumed. And so we follow each other on Twitter, and on one of my Twitter accounts, he tagged me in an article. And so even though the Big Ten and the Pac-12 called off last week, there's still uncertainty about what's going to happen in terms of there are some reports and articles that I saw over the weekend that, for example, the study that the Big Ten made its decision on was a faulty study. And anyone who is involved with science knows that when you're making health decisions of a significant magnitude, you want to make sure the data is solid, and you want to make sure that the study is solid as well. I almost feel like I should be uploading this on my science channel. But anyway, this involves the Big Ten and Michigan football and the Pac-12. So this is a sports story. So, there are a lot of bitter people now, a lot of angry people. And then there are some of us who are saying, you know what, if this is not based on real science, maybe, just maybe, Kevin Warren and the higher-ups in the Big Ten, maybe they'll have an epiphany and reverse course and put things back on. It looks like Justin Fields has started a petition to have football. So we'll see. I know some people have given up, but I'm kind of there's still an outside chance that they'll start things up if the data show, if an objective look at the data shows that the student athletes won't be in danger. And that's, in my opinion, that's the most important thing, keeping the kids safe. But so one question is, for the Big Ten and the Pac-12 going forward, if they don't play. And by the way, a friend of mine told me that the ACC hasn't 100% committed to playing either. So the question is, assuming the Big Ten and the Pac-12 stay on their square and don't allow their football schedules to go forward, what are the long-term ramifications for both of those conferences and their athletics programs? And so the article that BGS shared with me this morning, or sometime yesterday, this is dated August 16th, 2020, from the Wall Street Journal, and I'm not subscribed technically, but he was able to get a copy of it and send it to me, so I'm very appreciative of that. But the article is entitled, "As College Football Games Vanish, So Do Their Millions." Okay. And so the first, there's a picture here, and I'm going to leave, if I can leave a copy of this in the description box below, I'll leave it there. But there's a picture of the Oregon Ducks getting ready to run out of their tunnel at Autzen Stadium. And there's a subtitle under the picture which says, "Oregon could lose $50 million of a projected athletics budget of up to $130 million for the upcoming year," Athletic Director Rob Mullins says. Okay, so this article was written by, doesn't say Okay, but this was published yesterday. So, when college sports shut down because of the coronavirus pandemic last spring, university athletic departments started trimming expenses like they were peeling an apple. Now that the Big Ten and Pac 12 conferences have postponed the fall season entirely, budgets could be slashed to the core. Many departments in those conferences and others that are now postponing fall sports had already laid off staff and reduced salaries. Stanford eliminated entire teams, citing financial strain exacerbated by the coronavirus pandemic. Without football, they're now looking at radical changes to how they run college sports. And some are considering borrowing tens of millions of dollars to make ends meet. The pain will expand to the rest of college football's giants if the Southeastern Atlantic Coast and the Big 12 conferences ultimately postpone football as well. Oregon, the reigning Pac-12 football champion and philanthropic darling of alumnus and Nike co-founder Phil Knight, is looking at an unprecedented revenue drop. The Ducks could lose $50 million of a projected athletics budget of up to $130 million for the upcoming year, athletic director Rob Mullins said. That could rise as much as $80 million if the postponed games aren't played in the spring. The schools collectively have a lot to lose. Pac-12 athletic departments generated a total of $1.3 billion in revenue in the 2018-19 school year, according to the U.S. Department of Education. Big Ten athletic departments generated almost $1.9 billion. Football accounts for the bulk, if not the overwhelming majority, of athletic revenue at most of the schools. The postponement of football games won't necessarily devastate universities' general budgets, since few schools transfer revenues from athletics to their academic operations. Money from TV deals, priority seating programs, and ticket sales is funneled back into athletic departments to pay for sleek locker rooms, upgraded stadiums, and big-name coaches like Michigan's Jim Harbaugh. But athletic departments could rely on their university's resources or take out loans to stay afloat. Stanford announced before the loss of 2020 football games that it was cutting 11 varsity sports at the end of the coming academic year to manage an anticipated $25 million deficit on a budget of nearly $120 million, due partly to the pandemic and partly to longer-term financial woes. So this subtitle says, Stanford plans to discontinue 11 varsity sports, including men's volleyball. Now the school is expecting an athletics deficit of $40 million to $50 million, said athletic department spokesman Tommy Gray, depending in part on how or if TV deals are reconfigured and whether fans are allowed into stadiums in the spring. Stanford Athletics is also cutting some staffers' pay temporarily and could tap into reserve funds, Gray said. Scrapping more teams isn't currently on the table. Although Arizona is a rabid basketball school, football pays most of the bills. Without games in the upcoming year, the Wildcats could lose up to $65 million from a projected $94 million athletics budget, athletics director Dave Hickey said. I think that's right. It's either Dave Hickey or Dave Heek. That's because Arizona, like many schools, makes much of its revenue from lucrative broadcast rights agreements negotiated by their conferences. And the most valuable inventory is football games. Fox and ESPN have multi-year deals with the Big Ten and Pac-12 that together will pay the conferences $5.64 billion. Now, those TV rights payments to the conferences are in limbo. Representatives from Fox and ESPN declined to comment. Schools benefit far beyond direct payments for their broadcast deals. Football games serve as what amounts to hours-long commercials beamed into the homes of prospective students, faculty, and donors. Home game weekends also serve as natural magnets for alumni reunions and donor events. The organic marketing can't be easily replaced. Michigan, my school, made more than $56 million last year from sports ticket sales, primarily from football, according to athletic department spokesman Kurt Svoboda. Wow, I never seen that name before. This year, that number could drop to 0, a frightening prospect for the Big Ten powerhouse. Michigan also earned $28 million last year from donations that land people premium seats, mainly for football, basketball, and ice hockey. Some ardent alums won't ask for refunds. Even before many schools lost football, athletic departments had begun tightening belts during the pandemic shutdown by cutting teams in so-called non-revenue sports or reducing salaries. The NCAA reduced its annual payouts to schools by nearly 2/3 after the men's basketball tournament was canceled, putting immediate pressure on schools' budgets. In June, Iowa cut its fiscal 2021 athletic budget by $15 million or 11.8%, but warned there'd be more significant cuts without complete football and basketball seasons with fans in attendance. These are challenging times with significant uncertainty, athletic director Gary Barta said at the time. An athletic department spokesman said Thursday that Barta wasn't ready to comment on the financial implications of football's postponement. It isn't yet clear how football's postponement might affect the payouts to member schools, made up mainly of money from broadcast rights deals. In the 2018-19 academic year, the Pac-12 distributed $387 million to schools, or about $32 million per university. The Big Ten distributed $55.6 million to each of the 14 school conferences' 12 longest standing members. Things are dire enough that the Pac-12 is exploring securing loans of as much as about $80 million per school for those who want them, according to a person familiar with the discussions. Conference leaders believe they could secure 10-year loans from banks at about a 3.75% interest rate, that person said. Mullins at Oregon said the school is considering a loan among a range of options. So is Colorado, which has already cut its athletic budget to $72 million from more than $90 million earlier this summer. Everything is on the table, said spokesman David Platty. With athletics' largest revenue stream halted for 2020, universities could shoulder a greater burden in repaying tens of millions in debt that many athletic departments have taken out in recent years to pay for facilities upgrades. This subtitle reads, it reiterates Michigan made more than $56 million last year from sports ticket sales, primarily from football, according to an athletics department spokesman. UC Berkeley, for instance, owes $439 million mainly for a massive football stadium construction project completed in 2012. The Central University pays more than half of the current annual $18 million debt service for the stadium, but is in the process of reducing its annual direct support to the athletic department. Moody's Investors Service said in a note Thursday that some athletic departments likely won't be able to cover debt service payments on their own right now, but that it expects parent universities to step in with internal loans to avoid default. Moody's Vice President Dennis Gephardt warns, though, that other revenue streams are running dry as well. Money from housing and dining, for example, are down as students continue taking classes online. Some remain optimistic that this is a short-term revenue hit and not an existential crisis for college sports. What you've got to bank on is that we're going to get back to playing eventually, said Rutgers football coach Greg Schiano on Friday. He noted that the school is set to come into a larger share of the Big Ten's valuable TV rights in the near future. And the article says, share your thoughts. And please share your thoughts below this particular video. I think this was written by Benjamin Mullen. This says Benjamin Mullen contributed to this article. And I think maybe Melissa Korn and Rachel Backman. I think that all three of them may have written this up. So there you have it. BGS, I guess you were right. This all goes back to the money. So I don't want to make this longer than it is already. This is worth shooting a follow-up video, but as many of you all know, at the big time Power 5 institutions, there are revenue sports and non-revenue sports. And football is arguably the biggest of the revenue sports. I think basketball is second to football, but this is how golf and field hockey and lacrosse and probably the women's sports, this is how they all get funded. This is how all those scholarships get funded. This is how the coaches get paid. The football games on Saturdays, and once your breadwinner is gone, you can't pay for those other things. So while the student athletes like Justin Fields and all those guys want to play, and while we want to see the competition on Saturdays, there is a huge financial concern here that many of us as fans don't see and probably don't take into consideration when we're watching the games and rooting for our teams on Saturdays. And these are things that, going a month or so back, these are things that athletic directors like Ward Manuel have to consider when thinking about firing Jim Harbaugh and potentially bringing in someone else. You have to keep the money rolling in to pay the bills for the entire athletic department. And then, again, now I could go into Title IX and having to pay for the women's sports as well. But as we can see here, college football is the moneymaker for most of these athletic departments. So I'm going to stop here. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below, or if you have any questions. Like I said, once I go out and walk and think about this article, this will probably spawn a few more videos. And, again, maybe if that data that Kevin Warren and the rest of the Big Ten presidents, if that data ends up being faulty, thinking about this article right here, they might want to backtrack and reverse course and give us our football this fall season. All right, well, I'm going to stop here. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.